Hi, it's Anna and welcome to another bookish video. In today's video, I'm going to be telling you the 23 books that I have to read in 2023. Whether they're ones I'm excited for or ones that I've been meaning to get around to forever, if I don't read these 23 books in 2023, please unsubscribe from this channel. We're putting it all on the line here. Personally, I just love watching these videos because I feel like it gives me good recommendations for myself and gets me new books that I'm excited for, just hearing what other people are planning on reading. So if you have any that you are definitely 100% planning on reading in 2023 that you're really excited for, let me know in the comments. Or if you share any of the ones that I'm mentioning here, comment that as well. Starting at number 1, and this is a book that is one of the first books that I've ever pre-ordered and I'm very excited about receiving, but that is Happy Place by Emily Henry, which is coming out in April of this year. I read People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry, wasn't blown away by it. It was just kind of an average little deal. Then I read Book Lovers by Emily Henry, was blown away by it, was much more than an average kind of deal to me. And so that has gotten me very excited for Happy Place, which is about a couple who broke up months ago make a pact to pretend to still be together for their annual week-long vacation with their best friends in this glittering and wise new novel from Emily Henry. Harriet and Wynne have been, I don't know if I like those names. Oh well. Harriet and Wynne have been the perfect couple since they met in college. They go together like salt and pepper, honey and tea, lobster and rolls. Except now, for reasons they're still not discussing, they don't. They broke up 6 months ago and still haven't told their best friends, which is how they find themselves sharing the largest bedroom at the main cottage that has always been their friend group's yearly getaway for the last decade. Their annual respite from the world, where for one vibrant blue week they leave behind their daily lives, have copious amounts of cheese, wine, and seafood, and soak up the salty coastal air with the people who understand them the most. Only this year, Harriet and Wynne are lying through their teeth while trying not to notice how desperately they still want each other. Because the cottage is for sale and this is the last week they'll all have together in this place, they can't stand to break their friends' hearts, and so they'll play their parts. Harriet will be the driven surgical resident who never starts a fight, and Wynne will be the laid-back charmer who never lets the cracks show. It's a flawless plan if you look at it from a great distance and through a pair of sunscreen-smeared sunglasses. After years of being in love, how hard can it be to fake it for 1 week in front of those who know you best? Ooh, I'm getting hot from my excitement just already in the video. But like I said, I just fell in love with Emily Henry's writing after Book Lovers, and I just have very high hopes for this one. It will definitely be one that I read as soon as I get it. Coming up next is Finlay Donovan Jumps the Gun, which is actually the 3rd book of Finlay Donovan so far, but I only read the first book. It was in the 24-hour reading vlog, so if you haven't watched that video, go ahead and watch that video. I read the first book of Finlay Donovan, and I have yet to read the second, so I guess technically the second is kind of on like my list for 2023 too, if the third is going to be, but the second came out this year, and the third one, Finlay Donovan Jumps the Gun, comes out in, it's either January 31st or like February 1st, something like that in 2023. I haven't really read too much into the summaries of like what happens in each book because I think it'll be kind of fun to just jump in knowing Finlay and then kind of just like seeing what she gets into. But in the first book, Finlay is an author who is discussing at Panera the plot for an upcoming like romantic suspense novel that she's writing, which includes discussions of, you know, murder types and methods and hiding the bodies and everything like that. And someone overhears her and tries to hire her to be a hit woman, and before you know it, suburban mom has gotten caught up with the mob, and we just kind of work our way through that with Finlay being funny, goofy, fast-paced plot, pretty lighthearted. And so I'm just looking forward to hopefully the second and third books both giving off those same vibes, that same energy, hopefully getting the same amount of enjoyment from both of them. Also, I just love this cover. Mint and purple. They're my colors. The next book that I have to read in 2023 is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I've read a lot of Taylor Jenkins Reid at this point. All of the most recent big, like Seven Husbands, Evelyn Hugo, Malibu Rising, Carrie Soto is back. I feel like, does she have one more? I've read One True Loves by her backlist. Oh well, but Daisy Jones and the Six, I have yet to read. And it has a show either coming out or maybe it's already came out. I really haven't looked too deep into it because I haven't read the book yet. I tried to start the audio once, but it was just like a time when I really wasn't focused, and so I really didn't get far into it. This is a book about an iconic 1970s rock group and their beautiful lead singer revealing the mystery behind their infamous breakup. Everyone knows Daisy Jones and the Six, but nobody knows the real reason why they split at the absolute height of their popularity until now. Daisy is a girl coming of age in LA in the late 60s, sneaking into clubs on the Sunset Strip, sleeping with rock stars, and dreaming of singing at the Whiskey A Go-Go. The sex and drugs are thrilling, but it's the rock and roll she loves the most. By the time she's 20, her voice is getting noticed, and she has the kind of heedless beauty that makes people do crazy things. Another band getting noticed is The Six, led by the brooding Billy Dunn. On the eve of their first tour, his girlfriend Camilla finds out she is pregnant. With the pressure of an impending fatherhood and fame, Billy goes a little wild on the road. Daisy and Billy cross paths when a producer realizes the key to supercharged success is to put the two together. What happens next will become the stuff of legend. I've just heard great things about it, and I feel like if I've read most of Taylor Jenkins Reid, then I might as well just read like the last little piece of the puzzle there that's waiting for me. This next one I actually got from Half Price Books, and so I have it in person, in physical paperback already, and it is one that I think I'm planning on doing a reading vlog of once I read all 3 of them, and that is ACOTAR, Court of Thorns and Roses. I just hear such great things about this book, and I've always like looked forward to reading them, but I just haven't yet, and so it's definitely going to be a must in 2023, hopefully early in 2023, and to be honest, I don't know too much that it's about. I have not read the back, and I'm not planning on reading the back before reading them, just because I think it'll be fun to dive in, see what's going on. But from my understanding, it's a fantasy book. There's definitely romance involved. I think it's a retelling of Beauty and the Beast from what I've heard. And then there's, what is it, like a Court of Silver, Flame Silver. And then there's also ACOWAR, Wings and Ruin. I think there's 3 books. Maybe there's more than 3 books, but I'm getting into this series, which starts with number 1 here. ACOTAR. Another book that I will have to must read in 2023 is one that I've actually read, I don't know how many times before in my life, but I've definitely read it multiple times before in my life. And I have my cute little paperback of it that I got at the library for $1, and that is Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, written by the one and only Harry Potter himself. But I genuinely do not remember the last time that I physically read the Harry Potter series was. I have listened to them probably twice all the way through within the past like 3 years or so, but that's just a different experience than reading through them, and so I'm excited to read through them. Obviously this is just the first one. I really want my own set of Harry Potter books at some point. I'll insert a little picture that I took at a bookstore the other day of like this paperback set of Harry Potters. I was like, this would just be wonderful. There's also a set of illustrated Harry Potter books, which they were like $55 each, so very, very expensive, but it's hardcover illustrated Harry Potter books, which I also think would be so cool. The book that started it all, a destiny to discover, a magic to behold, an evil to overcome. I'll be physically reading this series. Maybe not the whole thing. Don't hold me to the whole thing, but you can hold me to Sorcerer's Stone. The next book, I feel like these have all been, no they haven't. I was about to say I feel like these have all been new releases, and I literally just got done talking about Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, which came out in like 1997, I think. This one's gonna be a new release though, and that is The Only One Left by Riley Sager. Riley Sager, I have now read 2 of their books. The first one was Home Before Dark, which I really loved, really enjoyed, and it also got me more hooked on thriller, kind of horror type books. It wasn't fully horror, but a little bit. And this is Riley Sager's new release that's coming out in 2023. Oh, I've also read House Across the Lake, which was fine, but like just fine. So I'm just curious where we're gonna go from there. A gothic chiller about a young caregiver assigned to work for a woman accused of a Lizzie Borden-like massacre decades earlier. At 17, Lenora Hope hung her sister with a rope. Now reduced to a schoolyard chant, the Hope family murders shocked the Maine coast one bloody night in 1929. While most people assume 17-year-old Lenora was responsible, the police were never able to prove it. Other than her denial after the killings, she has never spoken publicly about that night, nor has she set foot outside Hope's End, the cliffside mansion where the massacre occurred. Stabbed her father with a knife, took her mother's happy life. It's now 1983, and home health aide Kit McDeer arrives at a decaying Hope's End to care for Lenora after her previous nurse fled in the middle of the night. In her 70s and confined to a wheelchair, Lenora was rendered mute by a series of strokes and can only communicate with Kit by tapping out sentences on an old typewriter. One night, Lenora uses it to make a tantalizing offer. "I want to tell you everything." "It wasn't me," Lenora said, "but she's the only one not dead." As Kit helps Lenora write about the events leading to the Hope family massacre, it becomes clear there's more to the tale than people know. But when new details about her predecessor's departure come to light, Kit starts to suspect Lenora might not be telling the complete truth, and that the seemingly harmless woman in her care could be far more dangerous than she first thought. I could see it going either way, but I feel like that's an interesting premise, so I'll definitely be reading it to see. Coming up next is a book that I have heard so much about, and I've heard such raving reviews just about the vibes that it curates, and that is Legends and Lattes. After a lifetime of bounties and bloodshed, Viv is hanging up her sword for the last time. The battle-weary orc aims to start fresh, opening the first ever coffee shop in the city of Thune. But old and new rivals stand in the way of success, not to mention the fact that no one has the faintest idea what coffee actually is. If Viv wants to if Viv wants to put the blade behind her and make her plans a reality, she won't be able to go it alone. But the truth rewards of the uncharted path are the travelers you meet along the way, and whether drawn together by ancient magic, flaky pastry, or a freshly brewed cup, they may become partners, family, and something deeper than she ever could have dreamed. kind of a goal for 2023 is to get more into fantasy, where this is like cozy fantasy, which is becoming more and more popular recently. But as you might be able to tell by the fact that like ACOTAR is on this list, Legends and Lattes, I really want to dive more into like the fantasy books that people like, because I just feel like I don't typically hang out in that genre, and I think it's one that I could really like. I guess technically Mr. HP over here is fantasy as well, so that's a few fantasy books I'm trying to get into. Coming up next is a book that I actually have physically. Let me take the receipt out that says I paid $100 billion for it. But it is a beautiful hardback, and that is Wrong Place, Wrong Time by Gillian McAllister. Now, hopefully this will actually be done in January, because it is my book club's pick coming up in January. Are you ready for the crack? That was some good ASMR there. Can you stop a murder after it's already happened? Late October, after midnight, you're waiting up for your 17-year-old son. He's past curfew. As you watch from the window, he emerges, and you realize he isn't alone. He's walking toward a man, and he's armed. You can't believe it when you see him do it. Your funny, happy teenage son. He kills a stranger right there on the street outside your house. You don't know who. You don't know why. You only know your son is now in custody, his future shattered. That night, you fall asleep in despair. All is lost. Until you wake, and it is yesterday. And then you wake again, and it is the day before yesterday. Every morning you wake up a day earlier, another day before the murder, with another chance to stop it. Somewhere in the past lies an answer, the trigger for this crime, and you don't have a choice but to find it. This is one that I'm really hoping is going to be good. I do really like the cover. I just think the coloring is cool and the text on it and everything. I'm really hoping it's going to be good. I feel like it could be good or it could be a flop. And so I'm curious to read it and find out, but that'll be coming up soon. Next is a book that Zach actually got me for Christmas, so he's bringing it back with him when he comes back. And this is one that I'm honestly a little bit nervous to read about, because I think it might hit deep, honestly. And I feel like maybe I'll do a reading vlog about this one too, as long as I don't become like wrecked and too personal and everything. We'll just see. We will see. But that is Mad Honey by JODI PICOULT and Jennifer Finney Boylan, which I'm kind of curious how it's by both of them, like how they collaborated like that. But it's a soul-stirring novel about what we choose to keep from our past and what we choose to leave behind. Olivia McAfee knows what it feels like to start over. Her picture-perfect life, living in Boston, married to a brilliant cardiothoracic surgeon, raising a beautiful son Asher, was upended when her husband revealed a darker side. She never imagined she would end up back in her sleepy New Hampshire hometown, living in the house she grew up in and taking over her father's beekeeping business. Lily Campanello is familiar with do-overs too. When she and her mom relocate to Adams, New Hampshire for her final year of high school, they both hope it will be for a fresh start. And for just a short while, these new beginnings are exactly what Olivia and Lily need. Their paths cross when Asher falls for the new girl in school, and Lily can't help but fall for him too. With Ash, she feels happy for the first time, yet at times she wonders if she can trust him completely. Then one day, Olivia receives a phone call. Lily is dead and Asher is being questioned by the police. Olivia is adamant that her son is innocent, but she would be lying if she didn't acknowledge the flashes of his father's temper in him, and as the case against him unfolds, she realizes he's hidden more than he's shared with her. Mad Honey is a riveting novel of suspense, an unforgettable love story, and a moving and powerful exploration of the secrets we keep and the risks we take in order to become ourselves. Maybe it's obvious why it might hit a little deep for me based on where I spend my days, but we'll see, and I am very excited to read it regardless. Coming up next is a new release by Mrs. apparently new favorite author that you know how much I've talked about the Riviera House and how much I love that book, and it made me shed a single tear. That book was by Miss NATASHA Lester, and this is NATASHA Lester's new release coming out. It already came out in Australia, but it's like coming out here in January, I believe. 3 Lives of Alex St. Pierre, a compelling and lavish novel from the New York Times bestselling author about a young woman striving to forget her part in the war by building life anew as the publicist at the just launching House of Dior in Paris, 1943. After spearheading several successful advertising campaigns in New York, PR wizard Alex St. Pierre comes to the attention of the U.S. government and finds herself recruited into a fledgling intelligence organization. Enlisted as a spy, Alex is sent to Europe, where she is tasked with getting close to a Nazi who might be willing to help the Allied forces, but there's also the chance that he might be a double agent. 1946. Following the war, Alex moves to Paris to run the Service de la Presse for the yet-to-be-launched House of Christian Dior. But when a figure from the war reappears and threatens to destroy her future, Alex realizes that only she can right the wrongs of the past and bring him to justice. The 3 Lives of Alex St. Pierre is a thrilling, sumptuous work of historical fiction told in 3 timelines, before, during, and after World War II, which I'm excited for because in the Riviera House, NATASHA Lester did the multiple timelines so well. And so, I mean, there'll be 3 going on apparently here, but I'm intrigued, to say the least, and excited, to say the most. Coming up next is not a new release, but it is one that I'm definitely going to read in 2023, and that is Beach Read by Emily Henry. And this comes from the fact that this is the one by her that I have yet to read. And so, as you know, people we meet on vacation felt like it was kind of mid. Book lovers loved Happy Place, Will See. But Beach Read is about a romance writer who no longer believes in love and a literary writer stuck in a rut engaged in a summer-long challenge that may just upend everything they believe about happily ever afters. Augustus Everett is an acclaimed author of literary fiction. January Andrews writes best-selling romance. When she pens a happily ever after, he kills off his entire cast. They're polar opposites. In fact, the only thing they have in common is that for the next 3 months, they're living in the neighboring beach houses, broke and bogged down with the writer's block. Until one hazy evening, one thing leads to another, and they strike a deal designed to force them out of their creative ruts. Augustus will spend the summer writing something happy, and January will pen the next great American novel. She'll take him on field trips worthy of any rom-com montage, and he'll take her to interview surviving members of a backwoods death cult, obviously. Everyone will finish the book, and no one will fall in love. Really. So it's one that I've wanted to read for a while and haven't gotten around to yet, so that's why it's going to be a priority this upcoming year. This next one is a sequel to a book that I read in this year, and honestly, I didn't feel too rushed to read the sequel, but then I saw that Haley Hughes actually really liked the sequel, and she didn't necessarily like the first book as much, but she said the sequel, it's worth reading the first book just to get to the sequel. And I didn't have negative feelings towards the first book, I just wasn't like instantly pulled in to read the sequel, and that is The Family Remains by Lisa Jewell, which is the sequel to The Family Upstairs, also by Lisa Jewell, obviously. Sorry, I'm like antsy. I spent the whole day at work sitting down, and now here I am. Early one morning, on the shore of the Thames, DCI Samuel Owuzu is called to the scene of a gruesome discovery. When Owuzu sends the evidence for examination, he learns the bones are connected to a cold case that left 3 people dead on a kitchen floor in a Chelsea mansion 30 years ago. Rachel Rimmer has also received the shock, news that her husband, Michael, has been found dead in the cellar of his house in France. All signs point to an intruder, and the French police need her to come urgently to answer questions about Michael and his past that she very much doesn't want to answer. After fleeing London 30 years ago in the wake of a horrific tragedy, Lucy Lamb is finally coming home. When she settles in with her children and is just about to purchase their first ever house, her brother takes off to find the boy from their shared past whose memories haunt their present. As they all race to discover answers to these convoluted mysteries, they will come to find that they're connected in ways that they never could have imagined. Oh, and it says in this masterful standalone sequel, so I guess maybe you don't have to read the first one to read this? I don't know. We'll see. I don't have the highest of hopes for it, but I'm very much intrigued by the book. Coming up next, All the Dangerous Things by STACY Willingham. She is the one who wrote A Flicker in the Dark this year. That was a debut, I'm pretty positive, and was really good, especially for a debut. 1 year ago, Isabel Drake's life changed forever. Her toddler son Mason was taken out of his crib in the middle of the night while she and her husband were asleep in the next room. With little evidence and few leads for the police to chase, the case quickly went cold. However, Isabel cannot rest until Mason is returned to her. Literally. Except for the occasional catnap or a small blackout where she loses track of time, she hasn't slept in a year. Isabel's entire existence now revolves around finding him, but she knows she can't go on this way forever. In hopes of jarring loose a new witness or buried clue, she agrees to be interviewed by a true crime podcaster, but his interest in Isabel's past makes her nervous. His incessant questioning paired with her severe insomnia has brought up uncomfortable memories from her own childhood, making Isabel start to doubt her recollection of the night of Mason's disappearance, as well as second guess who she can trust, including herself. But she is determined to figure out the truth no matter where it leads. Coming up next is an author that's already been mentioned, but it's one of the backlist ones instead of the upcoming release, and that is The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager. 15 years ago, summer camper Emma Davis watched sleepily as her 3 cabin mates snuck out of their cabin in the dead of night. The last she and anyone saw of them was Vivian closing the cabin door behind her, hushing Emma with a finger pressed to her lips. Now a rising star in the NYC art scene, Emma turns her past into paintings. They catch the attention of Francesca Harris White, the socialite and wealthy owner of the very same Camp Nightingale, and when Francesca implores Emma to return to camp as a painting counselor, Emma sees an opportunity to find closure and move on. Yet it is immediately clear that all is not right at Camp Nightingale. Already haunted by surfacing memories, Emma is suddenly plagued by a security camera pointed directly at her cabin, mounting mistrust from Francesca, and, most disturbing of all, cryptic clues Vivian apparently left behind about the camp's twisted origins. And as history begins to repeat itself and 3 girls go missing again, Emma must face threats from both man and nature in order to uncover all the buried secrets, including what really happened all those years ago. Spooky. The next one is another by a similar author that I read. I feel like so many of mine are author connections that it's like I liked this book and I need to read more by this author, but I never always prioritize the time to, so this list is kind of helping me do that. But that is The Radium Girls by Kate Moore. Kate Moore wrote The Woman They Could Not Silence, which I really enjoyed this year, but The Radium Girls, it's a true story. Like, she writes nonfiction in a way that feels like a novel and feels just like a story itself. I actually don't even know what The Radium Girls are about. I think it's something about women who worked like in a factory with science and they ended up glowing and like the effects of that. I honestly don't really even care that much because I'll read the book anyways. And something about it, like I really like this cover too. I think it's the green that I like about it. This one is also by a 2022 author, and that is Warrior Girl Unearthed by Angeline Boulley. She wrote The Firekeeper's Daughter, if you read that. But this is another thrilling YA mystery about a native teen who must find a way to bring an ancestor home to her tribe. Perry Firekeeper Birch was ready for her summer of slack, but instead, after a fender bender that was entirely not her fault, she stuck working to pay back her auntie Donis. Oh, so Donis was the main character in The Firekeeper's Daughter. Oh, so she stuck working to pay back her auntie Donis for repairs to the Jeep. Thankfully, she has the other outcasts of the summer program, Team Misfit Toys, and even her twin sister, Pauline. Together, they ace obstacle courses, plan vigils for missing women in the community, and make sure Summer doesn't feel so lost after all. But when she attends a meeting at the local university, Perry learns about the Warrior Girl, an ancestor whose bones and knife are stored in the museum archives, and everything changes. Perry has to return Warrior Girl to her tribe. Determined to help, she learns all she can about NAGPRA, the federal law that allows tribes to request the return of ancestral remains and sacred items. The university has been using legal loopholes to hold on to Warrior Girl and 12 other Anishinaabe ancestors' remains, and Perry and the Misfits won't let it go on any longer. Using all of their skills and resources, the Misfits realize a heist is the only way to bring back the stolen artifacts and remains for good. But there is more than meets the eye as more women disappear, and Pauline's perfectionism takes a turn for the worst. As secrets and mysteries unfurl, Perry and the Misfits must fight to find a way to make things right for the ancestors and for their community. Don't worry, we're almost at the end. I think. We're getting there. We're definitely getting there. Next comes a book that I just heard about and was very intrigued by, even though I don't know all too much about it, but that is Age of Vice by Deepti Kapoor. This is the age of vice where money, pleasure, and power are everything, and the family ties that bind can also kill. New Delhi, 3 a.m. A speeding Mercedes jumps the curbs, and in the blink of an eye, 5 people are dead. It's a rich man's car, but when the dust settles, there is no rich man at all, just a shell-shocked servant who cannot explain the strange series of events that led to this crime, nor can he foresee the dark drama that is about to unfold. Deftly shifting through time and perspective in contemporary India, Age of Vice is an epic, action-packed story propelled by the seductive wealth, startling corruption, and bloodthirsty violence of the Wadia family. Loved by some, loathed by others, and feared by all. Like I said, I've just seen it, and I was like, yeah, that looks good. That looks good. Gonna be reading it in 2023. Same with this one, episode 13 by Craig DeLuey. A ghost hunting reality TV crew gain unprecedented access to an abandoned and supposedly haunted mansion, which promises a groundbreaking 13th episode, but as they uncover the secret history of the house, they learn that reality TV might be all too real. In Bram Stoker Award-nominated author Craig DeLuey's latest heart-pounding novel of horror and psychological suspense. Fade to Black is the newest hit ghost hunting reality TV show. It's led by a husband and wife team, Matt and Claire Kirkland, and features a dedicated crew of ghost hunting experts. Episode 13 takes them to Matt's Holy Grail, the Paranormal Research Foundation. This crumbling mansion holds secrets and clues about the bizarre experiments that took place there in the 1970s. It's also undoubtedly haunted, and Matt hopes to use their scientific techniques and high-tech gear to prove it. But as the house begins to slowly reveal itself to them, proof of an afterlife might not be everything Matt dreamed of. A story told in broken pieces, in tapes, journals, correspondence, and research files, this is the story of episode 13 and how everything went horribly wrong. I feel like this could be a good one to listen to, maybe too, depending on how they do the audiobook, just the fact that it's told in like the broken pieces like that. It just sounds interesting, to be honest. Like that's why it's on this list. It just sounds interesting. This next one Zach also got, so I'll have it physically once he gets back. And it is one that I keep seeing has made people cry. However, I saw recently that Jan was reading it and she posted some like quotes on her Instagram story, and it seems like there's like a really bad smut scene in there that like mentions pasta and just is not good. So now I feel like my view going into it is tainted, because before that I just kept hearing people talk about like, this is so beautiful, like this is my favorite book, like ugly crying over here. And so for those reasons I was excited, but then I was reading some of the lines that Jan posted on her story the other day and I was like, man, but I feel like maybe it'll still be really good. Chicago, sometime. 2 people meet in the Art Institute by chance. Prior to their encounter, he is a doctoral student who manages his destructive thoughts with compulsive calculations about time travel. She is a bipolar counterfeit artist undergoing court-ordered psychotherapy. By the end of the story, these things will still be true, but this is not a story about endings. For Reagan, people are predictable and tedious, including and perhaps especially herself. She copes with the dreariness of existence by living impulsively, imagining a new alternate timeline being created in the wake of every rash decision. To Aldo, the world feels disturbingly chaotic. He gets through his days by erecting a wall of routine, a backbeat of rules and formulas that will keep him going. Without them, the entire framework of his existence would collapse. For Reagan and Aldo, life has been a matter of resigning themselves to the blueprints of inevitability until the two meet. Could 6 conversations with strangers be the variable that shakes up the entire simulation? Talks about how it's an intimate and contemporary study of time, space, and the nature of love. Alone with You in the Ether explores what it means to be unwell and how to face the fractures of yourself and still love as if you're not broken. Sounds like it could be beautiful and life-changing. We'll just have to see. I will, in 2023, read The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is one, let's see if I can do it from memory because I've heard so many people talk about it. A high school student learns that she either like gets the inheritance or gets money or like a scholarship from some like rich guy who died, but in order to actually get that money she has to live with his sons in his house. That summary doesn't sound good. I think that's what it is though. Let's fact check. Okay, so he loves like puzzle riddles and codes, so I think it'll be like her like trying to solve a puzzle. I don't know, I just see so many people talk about it that I feel left out. I feel FOMO, so I'm gonna read it. This is our third to last one. Next Year in Havana by Chanel Cleaton. This is an author that was recommended to me by someone that I met at Silent Book Club just like a couple weeks ago. And I was looking at the books and I was like, this looks interesting, because I do like historical fiction, but I also specifically like historical time periods or locations that I don't feel like there's as many books, or at least I haven't read as many books in that place. And this author writes a lot about Cuba. And so I believe it's a dual timeline. It looks like 1958 and 2017 between like a grandma and then her granddaughter in the future. And I don't know the plot, and I don't really feel like I need to know the plot. I'll just dive in and see where it takes me once I read it. These last ones are they're kind of cheating as my 23 to read in 2023, except like they are goals. I just don't know which ones I want to read yet, so I probably actually need your help. But number 22 is Something by Stephen King. I've never read anything by Stephen King. I am extreme horror adverse, but I know that I don't think all of his books are like that, but I feel like, I don't know, recommendations. What should I read by Stephen King? I want to read something by the author because I haven't yet. Again, I'm feeling FOMO, but I don't know which book I want to read by him. And then number 23 is I want to read something by Agatha Christie. I've never read anything from Agatha, and I feel like those are like classics that I need to read, but I don't know what I want to read from Miss Agatha. So if you have any suggestions or recommendations, definitely let me know. All that being said, let me know if there's any others that I need to add to this list. We can do a 24, 25, 26, and 2023 if we need to. Thanks for watching this video all the way through. It was a lot of talking, a lot of books, a lot of summaries, a lot of being excited for the books that are upcoming. Make sure to subscribe before you go, and I'll see you next time.
We cry